A little tall, so I'm just kind of slap centering it down just to make it a little bit more of a mound than a So I always start by sealing the bottom. You can do that when it's wet or dry, and then I usually push the clay down just to make sure it gets really stuck to the wheel so it won't slide off. And then this clay is kind of firm, so I really need to tuck my elbow in and lean my whole body weight. When the clay is a little firm, I like to use both hands and my pinkies down here, and I'm using this knuckle under my pinky to cone this up, and then I also kind of use my fingertips and dig them in. And your fingertips are pretty firm, and a lot firmer than like your palm, so they are a little bit better at centering the clay. Then I'm trying to think about how wide the bottom of the cylinder is going to be, and try not to center it too much wider than that, otherwise you'll have a lot more clay to pull up. Now, same thing when I'm opening it up. I'm going to try not to squish the whole mound down, but keep it kind of tall. The kind of challenging part about that is it can be kind of hard to reach down there and pull the bottom out. So a lot of times with smaller stuff, I'll pull out the bottom using my thumbs by going like this. But I'm just going to reach down here with my middle finger because it can reach a little bit better, and just kind of curl it towards me like this. And when you do that kind of like claw curling way of doing it, it doesn't make this top part get too much wider. I'm gonna compress the bottom a couple times, and I'm going to make sure that it doesn't slope up in the corner. I want it to be nice and flat, because if there's a slope, then that's just extra clay that will add to the weight of the bottom. So I want it to be like a nice flat bottom with right angles going up. Okay. Then I like to start with a sponge, and I'm using mostly my right hand and trying to get kind of a volcano shape just by pushing inwards. So this isn't even really like technically throwing, you're just kind of pushing the clay inwards and upwards, but I'm not actually doing the thing where one finger's above the other finger and going up, but this just kind of sets everything up so that I'm getting eaten alive. Sets everything up and going in this direction so that it won't get too wide when we're throwing. Okay. Then I'm really going to push in this bottom part to the width that I want it to be, or at least getting closer to the width I want it to be. I'm going to slow down the wheel. And I still just like using the sponge, especially with bigger things, because then stays nice and wet the whole time. So you want to make sure that you're pushing in a little bit, but if you go in too much at the bottom, then the bottom will get weak and it will start to wobble. So that's kind of the main challenge with the first pull, is just to do it gradually. You don't need to get it all up there all at once. And then gradually release pressure like this. And you can see it started to go out a little bit, so I need to collar it back in. Again, just moving slowly. And I'm going to push this bottom part further in. I have a little bit of a wobble right here at the bottom. It's not too bad, so I just kind of found the top of the wobble and just threw downwards a little bit, and it just helps fix. I should.
I can't, like, there's no way I could stick my hands into something that deep when it was moving and not, like, totally screw it up. Like, it was like there'd be a hole in it, or, like, I would just. I don't feel like I can control it.
A tall, skinny cylinder is one of the hardest
Yeah, because you're like no longer anchoring your arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the trick to that is keep your elbows in, and I like to anchor my arm on my leg, and that way my arm is kind of just like a lever, and you're not like this and getting wobbled around.
Okay.
So,
but the arm that's going in is not tethered to your body.
But my elbow is in, so it kind of is. So I tried, but yeah, it is difficult.
Yeah, you are keeping it still. I do.
And if you get a little wobble, you just have to try not to panic. As long as you are doing it correctly and not moving too fast and keeping even pressure, the clay should kind of fix itself. If you do get like a bad wobble, then I like to just use one of these on the outside, a sponge on the inside, and just push up against, push the wall out until it hits the straight edge. And I like to do this before shaping because it just compresses everything and gets it real nice and no bumps or anything. Just going to color this in a little bit. Makes it less likely that it will collapse if it's all compressed nicely. Okay, and always make sure you have it at an angle. If you have it like this, it will catch on the side. Now if there's any water in the bottom, now is when you get it out. And I'm actually gonna do one more throw. This is a little bit on the, just a teeny bit on the thick side, I think. So I'm gonna try one more throw. And I'm gonna do this one with my fingers so I can really feel what I'm doing. So if once you get kind of to the last pull, I like using just my hands so that if a wobble starts to happen, I can feel it right away and kind of adjust and slow down and then I like to touch my thumbs together as soon as I can to stabilize. And then when you get to the top, it's pretty common to accidentally make it get wider. So I kind of, when I get to the top, I stop moving my left finger up and I just go over with my right finger, kind of like this. So my fingers are like this the whole time. When I get to the top, I go like that, and it helps it stay going in. Whereas if your left finger stays on top, a lot of times people go like this and it starts to go out at the top. All right, so this is feeling good. Just gonna quickly do this one more time. Okay, now I like to stretch it out and shape it starting at the top and going downwards, because when you start at the bottom, I find that it's more likely that it will get, the bottom will collapse. If you start at the top, it's less likely. And I like to use a sponge and just go gradually. So I just push out until I see a nice bump there, and then slowly go down. And I keep the sponge at 3 o'clock at all times. You don't want to let it get too far that way, because then the clay will pull you. So you want to make sure you keep it at 3 o'clock. You can even imagine that you're pulling the sponge a little bit towards you. And I want to make sure I get a nice shoulder, so I'm just coming back up a little bit to kind of emphasize this top part. These mosquitoes are ridiculous. Yeah. Thank you. And my arm, if your arm gets tired of being in that same position, you can switch to the other arm.
I don't know if I would trust myself.
And then if there's any areas like this, just go back over them to even everything out. And then you can also use this on the outside to get nice clean lines and to help keep it from collapsing. slow it down and finish the top part here. So I have a good amount of clay up here that I can use to make this top section. So it depends on what you want to do, but so you could leave it kind of like this and just have it kind of like that. You could have it go in and get a bit skinnier. So annoying. Okay, so at this point it's really just depends on what you want to do, but the key to this part, because this area is pretty thin and can kind of twist, so you have to make sure that it's well lubricated and that you go very gradually and slowly.
Is there a danger if you had wanted it to have a fruit at the top of making it collapse? Trying to do that? Like sort of like a flower vase that has like the thing that goes up? Because I'd imagine
Sorry,
based on what you just said, that would be kind of structurally difficult.
to have it go out.
Yeah.
No, you could definitely do that. It's probably easier to go out than in, like what I'm doing right now. Yeah. Starting to get a little wobbly, so I don't want to mess with it too much more. Just kind of clean up this top area. Make it a little bit skinnier. And then I like to really define the top part so that it's a separate thing than the shoulder here. That's pretty much it, just cleaning it up at this point.
That's awesome. Yeah. Make it look way easier than I imagine it will be.
I've made a lot of these, so it just takes practice like everything else. really the cylinder was the hardest. The tall cylinder was the hardest part for me to get. And then the shaping is just kind of fun. I think starting from the top and working your way down is like the safest way to do it.
Yeah, I've never done that before.
Yeah, it might feel kind of weird the first time you try it, but if you stick with it and do it a few times, I think it will pay off.
I have to put more.
I
know.
put it on my
Like 6
legs.
times sitting there.
Yeah, same.